Hey, so it's been a while since I've done a video talking about my mom's Alzheimer's. And I think it's because it's much easier for me to talk about my mental illness than it is to discuss what happened to her. And I guess more what happened to my family as a result of the Alzheimer's. So I've been getting quite a few questions because my last video was very stream of thought and not at all planned out, and it just whatever came out came out. um, I've been getting questions about, like how old was my mom, and I think I might have said it in the last video, but how old she was, how old I was, what that was like growing up that way, and kind of my whole point of coming forward to talk about this. Like I said, it's next month, April, will mark 20 years since she passed. Just to kind of say that, here I am. I'm the face of Alzheimer's 20 years later. I'm, and this is how it still affects me. And I guess I thought I could get away with not talking about my childhood. How foolish. Um, as a former reporter, uh, I know that those are the exact questions that I would ask somebody, even if they didn't want to talk about it. So I might as well just put it out there. So my mom was 36 years old when she had me. My dad was 40, which for the 70s, that was pretty old to have children, or, now it's pretty normal for people to have their first child, not their last. So my siblings were pretty much grown by the time I came along. My brother was 16 and my sister was almost 18. And my parents never called me a mistake. They always called me a blessing. Um, yeah, I knew this was going to be hard. So, pretty much my whole life, my mom had a terrible memory, and it was kind of like a running joke in the family, kind of like, you know, oh, big surprise, Bernice forgot something again, and and she was very cautious to treat it like a joke. My mom was crazy smart, and I think she knew for a long time before we even started really noticing things that she was sick. I think she knew, and she covered it up by joking about it. And I think the first time something really caught me about that there might be something wrong with her, I think I was 11. I had been hit by a car. Yeah, that's a whole other story. But I had been hit by a car, and my mom and I were in the hospital, and she was talking to like the nurse or the doctor. I was pretty out of it. I had a concussion, but I remember that she couldn't. She had a brief second where she couldn't remember how to sign her name on the paperwork. And I thought that that was weird, but she covered it up really fast. And I remember looking at the paperwork afterwards, and it wasn't even like her normal signature. It was just sort of a scribble. And my mom had impeccable penmanship, and
very distinct way of signing her name, and she just kind of made a scribble on the paperwork. And then when I asked her about it later, she joked about it and just said that she wanted to try something different. Um, and then I think I was maybe 12. It was probably around the same time. Um, she and I wasn't told all the details. My family was very kind of secretive and private, even within the family itself. So it's like not only did the family keep pretty much everything within the family, but then within the family there were secrets like no tomorrow. And so around the same time, my mom was working. She worked as like a secretary, administrative assistant type, was on a computer. She was let go from her job, and I wasn't told why until much later. Um, it was basically they just said she said that she was laid off, and then around the same time she kind of lost her driver's license, and that was blamed on some accident that had happened years before. And it always seemed weird to me, because at like age 12 you're starting to like question everything, and I always questioned everything, which is why I became a reporter. Hello. um, so but my dad would never tell me, and so anyway, so she lost her job, subsequently, lost her driver's license. I found out that she, like much later, that her boss had called my dad because my mom had been forgetting things that she was normally really good at, and it was starting to become a problem. So I was 12, I think. Like it was like I was like 11 or 12, and then she just kind of started getting worse, and I think she liked her freedom, and I think not having a job and not being able to drive, we would, we lived 3 hours from our closest family, and she, loved visiting her family. She missed her family, and I think once she lost her license and wasn't able to just go and do what she wanted to do, that started to take a toll, and I think she became incredibly depressed. So then when I was 13, I knew that my mom had been going to a bunch of doctor's appointments, but again, I wasn't told why until it was absolutely necessary. And so there was a particular appointment, and I was 13. Uh, my dad took me out of school to go with. And I thought, okay, well, it must be pretty serious if he's taking me out of school. So we went, and they brought me in the room. And, I knew that something had been going on, and I just assumed that they were going to tell me she had cancer or something. But I knew that walking in, that my life was never going to be the same as it was. And then they said Alzheimer's disease. And I mean, what do you you're 13 and they tell you your mom has Alzheimer's disease. And I said to the doctor, I said, old people get that, right? And he looked at me, and I could just see in his eyes I could see in his eyes that
just not even pity, just how much he was feeling for me at that moment. And he said, normally it is. And this is a more unique case, and it's pretty rare for it to happen. And back then, I never cried in front of anybody, not even my family. I held it all in until I was alone. And I did that for a long time, which is why all of this happens now. And when we got home, we had an encyclopedia set that was fairly recent at that time, and this is before Google, so I looked it up in the encyclopedia. There were 2 paragraphs, and all it said was, who it was discovered by, and that from the onset of the disease, a person can live 7 to 20 years. And at the time, I assumed that because she was just being diagnosed, that was the onset, that was the start of it, right? So I thought, okay, I'll be like in my 20s. I'll be 20, at that point. So I'll be in college and everything will be fine. Because I thought 20 was old. When you're 13, you think 20 is old. So, so I thought I would have her for a few more years, and she probably had it my whole life. She just covered it up by joking about it. So, she probably had it for, was showing signs at 36, I'm sure. And they didn't catch it till she was 49. So